Do you sometimes feel like people are not really like paying attention to you or like overlooking you a bit? You're not alone. Not alone in this world. Like, don't feel bad about this. But also, there is a certain type of sound in music which is overlooked a lot of times, but it's very important. So keep that in mind. What's overlooked oftentimes is very important. And we're going to have a look at this in this video today. It's all about atmospheres and how to fill the empty space in your track. We're going to look at different ways how to do it. It's going to be amazing. Let's go. A track couldn't live without atmosphere sounds. This is a statement that I'm willing to make because, you know, atmospheres are somehow somewhat kind of the glue of a track because they will always connect all the different elements with each other. And if you think about atmospheres, they're oftentimes not even very audible. Like if you show the track to, let's say, someone who doesn't do music production, he will probably like ask you if there's even an atmosphere in there. Like he will probably not even hear it, or like just he will be like, oh, it's not even really audible. But still, it is something that subconsciously connects the whole track for him, and it will make the different parts feel more interesting. So atmospheres are really important. And let's talk a bit about what makes a good atmosphere. So definitely one important thing is that it's subtle. It doesn't have to be too much, like too close to the listener. It shouldn't be too loud. It shouldn't have too many high frequencies or too many very low frequencies. So it oftentimes sits in the area from, let's say, 200 to 1000 hertz. That can be varied a little bit, but that's kind of the area. So let's say it's a mid-rangey sound most of the times. Can be a bit darker, can be a bit brighter, but to have like to leave the high frequencies away, for example, helps in making the sound subtle, because the more high frequencies, the more it will feel closer to the listener. But if we keep away, like if we cut the higher frequencies, then the sound will feel a little more far away and will feel a bit more subtle, right? Another very important thing for atmospheres is to kind of have a movement inside of them. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be like the most complex sound, but it's definitely good if it's not just like, let's say, one one steady saw note that doesn't do anything, right? That's probably not the best atmosphere, but rather having something that either has just a bit of movement in itself, or you could, I don't know, utilize the cutoff, detune 1000 ways, right? You don't even have to do this with like Serum, a synthesizer or something. You can use anything to make atmosphere. And in this video, I'm going to show you just that. So first of all, we have 3 different loops here, and all of the 3 have an atmosphere track, which is disabled right now. So we're going to have a listen to the loop, and then we're going to enable the atmosphere, and we're going to spot the difference, right? So first of all, let's check this one out. So one could say that doesn't even sound that bad, right? There's also the delays on the voices and everything, so there's already a bit of an atmosphere. But listen to the difference now. Right, so what happens through this atmosphere is it connects all the different vocal parts with each other without really being like there. You don't really notice the sound, actually. You really have to listen closely, or like have somebody tell you, like, listen to the atmosphere right here. But if you wouldn't like listen too closely, if you wouldn't pay that much attention about every detail, you probably wouldn't even notice that there is an atmosphere in between those vocals. You would just think, oh, those vocals go along with each other so well. So this is the idea of atmospheres, right? To be subtle, to be maybe to be even unnoticed, right? So what is that? This is the vocal, or like it's made out of the vocal. So we put a little bit of effects on here. I can disable them real quick. this is what it sounds like. And I'm going to show you real quick how it's done, because it's very, very simple and it's a very, very common trick. It's called the endless reverb trick, or there's probably different words for it. So essentially you need a reverb with a freeze function, and freeze is available here in the simple Ableton reverb. So I just took a part of the vocal. I think it's the you know I'm here for you, right? Here for you. Right, here for you. So it's the last part of the vocal. And yeah, essentially you just put on the reverb 100%. And you can like put a longer decay. I would say put a little bit of a longer decay. You can play with the size. And at a certain point where you feel like, oh, that sounds nice, you just press freeze. And it's never gonna stop. It's never gonna stop unless I enable this, right? It's just gonna stay there forever, which like enables us to just record it. And there you go, you have your atmosphere. So then you can go into the effects and yeah, check it out for yourself a bit. There's different things you can do. Let's just do an option, right? So we have this. We have this way of designing it. Let's just do another way together, just to show you that there's endless possibilities. So this one is kind of bright, right? So we can even make it much more, like much darker and more in the background also. Maybe like this. Maybe we don't do this like this, we do it like this. And then we can add just a little bit of movement here. I don't know. Let's add a bit of drive. And for this one, I would add just a little bit of echo, because it's going to work nicely with the LFO on the filter. So that's essentially two different atmospheres. You could even layer them. That works so well. We're going to keep it like this. So that was the endless reverb trick. Now let's have a look at something else. In this track, the atmosphere is much more like subtle, I would say, but yeah. You know, this time we're gonna start by listening to the atmosphere. This might sound a little weird. Anyone has an idea what this is made of? Well, it's made of this lead synth here. And essentially what I did here is I have the track doubled and I put an echo on. And I made it very diffuse. We can even make it more diffuse, I would say. Let's add more reverb here. And then you either record it, or what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna freeze the track. And I want like some part looped, let's say this one. But that's not it yet, there's still a difference, right? You can maybe hear it already, it's just reversed. So in the end, we just add a little bit of echo of EQ8 here, right? We can just take away some bass. We can boost this frequency if we want to. We have some side chaining, lazy one with the auto pan. And yeah, that's another way, like having some kind of delays or reverbs on your synth and maybe recording it, reversing it, somehow editing it. You could also do the endless reverb trick with the synth here. It doesn't have to be a vocal. But yeah, that's another way of creating an atmosphere, and there's even more coming. So up until now, we only had like, let's call it pad-like atmospheres. So stuff that was like continuously playing over time. Like that's not a rhythm. Okay, technically that one kind of has a rhythm, but you know what I mean with continuously playing. Same goes for that one, especially for that one, right? That's just a hold it note, so to say, holding note. On this one here, we have something else. So have a listen to the loop without the atmosphere first. This is so badass, but at the same time, isn't there something missing? I feel like something needs to be added here. Of course it's an atmosphere, but this time, look at this. This is MIDI notes, and this is actually just on every third kick, every bar, right? So claps, for example, would be here. No, we have every third kick. And let's enable it and let's have a listen. So this is a, let's say, subtle pluck, and it's also a sort of atmosphere, I would say. At least for me, it sounds like an atmosphere. So yeah, this is another interesting way of not having like one note that's holding continuously, but rather having something that just feels a bit in the background, right? And this is achieved through different like stages of sound designing here. It's mainly the filter with the distortion. We can disable that for a moment, and we can also disable all those. This is what it sounds like. Now let's add the filter. I really prefer using the filter from the distortion. That just feels a bit better. I mean, you have a drive here as well, but this most of the time sounds a bit better for me. Just a little trick. But anyway, erosion is always great for adding a bit of texture, which is perfect for atmospheres. Then we have cut a lot of the low frequencies because, as I said, we don't want to have too many low frequencies. Then we have an echo. And we have a reverb. And even though there is some higher frequencies, I think in this example that's very fine because the loop itself, is very low in a way, right? This is all bass steps and just a little bit of clap at the end. So a very low feeling loop here. So an atmosphere that is a bit brighter will work perfectly here. And by the way, you can get a lot of atmosphere samples that I made for you for free if you just follow the link in the description. I said that in the beginning, I think, but still, you should get those. And yes, there's still countless ways of making atmospheres. And I hope that this video can be a little bit inspiring for you to think about your own ways to make atmospheres. One last tip. It's always a good idea to use something that you have already used in your track as a starting point for your atmosphere, because it will make the atmosphere feel more like a part of the track. You can still go with like this here, for example, like this was not part of the initial loop. Like here, the vocal atmosphere, that was part of the loop, right? So it feels natural from the very beginning. Here you have to do a lot of sound design and have to make it fit from the rhythm, but a good tip is to use something that is already in the project. Recycling, basically. So guys, I hope that was helpful for you. I would love to see you around here on the channel. We have a lot of videos on music production. Check those out, and until then, I would say have a good time and keep making music.